happen. I'm against those so-called media in sting operation, not with respect to the fair and opportunistic and a clear media trials. I'm not against those.
What if in case Darshan and team goes behind bar for a long time? As you said,
No, it's a matter of code. We don't have to mention anything, or we don't have to come to a conclusion either. It's all about no court. Court will decide it ultimately. Even if I tell you something, even if I don't tell you something, that will in any manner not going to help with the investigating officers. Even the discussions which is happening between you and me right now is also not going to help to the investigation. Same way it goes to the others. Now there are so many people who are supporting him. What about those people then? Now it has come to in such a stage that people are hating each other. For what sake? Hey, you are loving that person. And other side says, no, he is a good person. He has been dragged into these matters.
That's what
now,
social media is doing. That most of
exactly,
these YouTubers and all
exactly. What is happening now? Now, ultimately, the society is heading towards anarchy. I feel the very basic fundamental principal duty of the media houses, whether it is mainstream media or the YouTube medias, their duty is to show the things as it is. Do not mix anything to that. In that aspect, the Supreme Court of India has stated in Venkatesh Chandra versus State of Karnataka. This is the case of Karnataka. What it hold? It said, holding any debate or discussions that touch upon the matters that fall within the domain of court amount to direct interference in administration of justice. Aren't these institutions doing so? They're directly interfering in the domain of court, and that is nothing but contempt of court. Nothing but contempt of court. They will fall directly in the contempt of court. So they should restrain from it. They should have a healthy debates. I do not object to that effect, because we are in a democratic country. We all have a right to dissent, but dissent is not absolute. Freedom is also not absolute. Both are in restricted and reasonable conditions.
So what do you think? Last year, Darshan was banned by the mainstream media because of one audio which got viral. He was abusing, And I mean, how do you see today's the way the kind of reporting is happening, the kind of anchoring from the studio is happening? Do you think is it getting personal?
I would like to connect it with another incident. Before the 2024 elections results, and prior to 2014 to 24, there was a cream of the media houses which were projecting Muslims as terrorists, and they are no use to the society, etc., etc. Now the same person comes to the same stage, without taking and referring to his name and his channel, I would mention, he has appreciated Muslims. He has appreciated the minorities. He said, again, the Indian Muslims have protected the interest of India and they have protected the democracy. Now, what do you call it? This is a duplicacy of the media. It all the way happens. Sometimes they try to, appreciate, and sometimes they come with very sharp edges. These are only in respect of grabbing the TRPs and gaining money. So Chief Justice of India had said in a recent case that they should be fined not only to the limitation of 1 lakh rupees, but to the extent of their profit out of that show. So these are the things.
So where do you see the free speech? Because when we talk about media, we talk about a constitution which guarantees freedom of speech and expression, that is Article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution, and at the same time we have free speech. So do you think is it not getting balanced somewhere, or free speech ka matlab ye nahi ki just talk whatever you feel like?
No, it is not like that. It is not like that. See, the very purpose of Article 19 Clause 1 Clause A gives you a right to freedom of speech and expression. But certainly that is not an ultimate one. It has got some reasonable restrictions. Now, what is reasonable restriction? Reasonable restriction is nothing but it should be within the ambit of ethics, moral, and some duties. And that means you should not degrade someone. Just because you have right to speak, you cannot give such a statements which will hurt others. So we have section 500 in IPC, defamation. If the freedom of speech and expression would have been in absolute manner, then the very purpose of keeping the Indian Penal Code section 500 is of no use. Why there is a defamation section? Because these stands are not absolute and it should not go beyond the moral ethics and keeping the society in balance. If that goes beyond, then certainly it is not absolute. Just because I'm right now talking to you on this show, am I allowed to speak like anything? No. No.
So you mentioned about Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, which also says freedom of speech and expression. Where do you see what went wrong and what is going wrong in the case of Darshan incident? What do you think? Where is going wrong? Because as a journalist, we do have our own sources. Depending on the sources, we report the incident. It could be sources, could be could be from a police department, maybe from own lawyers, maybe from judiciary. We do have a lot of sources, but we not reveal them. But maybe because of the input what we are getting from there, and that's what we are reporting. Don't you think that is also somewhere misleading?
The more appropriate input would be the counsel who is appearing for Darshan. He should be the prima facie source of your reporting. If he is reporting something, if he is coming and giving in public some statements with respect to the case of Darshan, only those statements, quote unquote, has to be published, not from all the other sources. What is the source of that particular information? If that particular information is not coming from the proper and appropriate source, then the media houses, whether it is mainstream or YouTubers, they should not broadcast it. They should restrain from showing those statements. Just because you mention in a headline and in apostrophes, our secret source, our very important source, our the inside report, you're just giving a quote unquote word and speaking anything, those are not appreciated. Those are not appreciated. Certainly.
How does judiciary see the happenings on television? It could be pertaining to any story. Do they keep a tab? Do they keep a watch on it, or is it somebody independently is filing a PIL or something like that? How it works?
See, whether you, me, or the judges, we all are humans. We do all have the emotions. Certainly, some or the other way it gets impact on us. The same way it gets impacts on the judges also, because they are humans. They are not some superficial something like that. But what happens ultimately? The judges decide upon the material placed before them. Now, the discussions which are placed on social media are not going to be a part of the investigation. They are not going to be a part of the record which is placed before the judges. So certainly, whatever happens in the society, whatever happens in the news channels is altogether different. That will not make any impact to the judicial mind. It will not come into.
So my straight question to you, I'm sure you have been watching the developments of from the arrest to taking them to Maja, taking a spot, from judiciary, from police station to the court, then back to the jail, In reporting, where did you find what was missing and what was wrong?
I would only say whatever information is given from the appearing counsel to the Darshan and the state public prosecutor, only those should be the prima facie part of discussion. Except that, there should not be any other discussion. One thing. Second thing, with respect to investigation is concerned, if the police officer holds the press meet, gives any information, from that source it is coming, that can be shown and broadcasted. Thirdly, in my opinion, no investigating officer should reveal anything to the public except under the circumstances permission granted by the judicial officer, because these are going to hamper the investigation. I heard one police officer speaking to someone where he is saying, ತುಂಬಾ ಕೋಳಿಗೆ ಬಡದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎತ್ತಾಕಿ ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಿಸಿಟಿವಿ ಫುಟೇಜಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ಸಿಸಿಟಿವಿ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. Such information should not come to the public. It is very, in such cases it is a sacred information and it has to be protected so that accused is sent behind the bars. He should get convicted to that point. But what is happening? These some audios are being released, some videos are being spread across. These are not going to help us. It should not happen. Actually, it should not happen.
So what's the court's view on media trials? What does
now Supreme Court has very clearly stated in when I refer to Nizamuddin Markaz case, Sushant Rajput case, Riya Chakraborty case, R.N. Khan case, the Supreme Court has clearly stated the interference of media should be limited. It should not exceed their bounds. They are under some conditional limitation. They cannot exceed it. So I refer to the judgment which states any debates or discussions that touch upon the matters which fall within the ambit of courts, they should not touch upon those things. They should not come to those things.
Do you think it's been following?
Now I would say the judiciary should take it sumo moto. Only I could say that.
No, what can be a strict process to end this can, because we also do have information broadcasting ministry and a lot of other parallel organizations. So how do we make an impact thing, like,
some guidelines are being framed and we have seen some guidelines. In those, the NBFC was taken for red and blue, and accordingly it was said that the fine was up to limitation of 1 lakh rupees for those misrepresentations, misbroadcasted, etc. So CJI Chandrachud said that the limitation of a fine should not be minimum to 1 lakh. It should maximum to the profits made out of those shows. That was the only ultimate conclusion. But the PIs are yet pending, probably, and guidelines are yet to be framed in this regard. This is what information and limitations to which I have right now.
So my last question, now since Darshan and team is in judiciary custody, what would be the future about thing for Darshan? Like what could happen, because the kind of amount of evidence they've collected and
Sir, the whole
the normal talks among people, like, he will get a bail, he'll be back. That's very common thing, we'll get a bail. So what?
It is not just about bail. Of course, bail is right, but Supreme Court has a number of judgments referring to the severity and its gravity of case has taken into consideration, wherein even the bailable offences are not being granted bail, considering those aspects. Then finally came the landmark judgment of Arnesh Kumar. Arnesh Kumar says when there is an offence which is committed to whether cognizable, non-bailable, non-compoundable, but yet if the maximum punishment is 7 years and not beyond, such people should be granted bail. This is one part of the judiciary. Another part of this granting bail is concerned when the offence punishable is beyond 7 years. First, he will be taken into custody. Then he has to apply for the bail, and thereafter he gets or not get is an altogether different aspect. To grant bail, measure the severity of the crime is to be taken into consideration. Whether that severity somehow is connecting to that person or not has to be established. After taking all these things into consideration, courts will generally grant bail. But these aspects, if not fulfilling to the extent of gravity, then certainly he will. But if it is going beyond it, and the case in hand is, even though not reaching to the gravity of bail, but the intensity of that particular case and the severity of that particular case is creating apprehension and I would say danger to the society, then such persons won't get bail. It usually happens in murder cases and narcotic drugs cases and all other UAPA, NSA cases.
So Darshan is a case of Darshan is very high profile case, and because since he's one of the topmost actors of Karnataka, I mean, we need to appreciate police have done their job fantastic, and the full freedom was given to police. No, there was no involvement from the government, or there was no pressure from the government. It could be home minister and chief minister. They said, like, go do ahead what has to be done. If he is found guilty, punish him. I mean, this is one case. At times, same times, we have seen many other cases where the government and the department, there was even involvement and cases have been hushed up. What could be the reason? Like, a pressure, maybe.
No, I would restrain myself from giving an answer to this effect, but I would certainly say recently we have seen the retired then Chief Minister of Karnataka, Yedurappa, who was granted bail in POCSO. POCSO is a very special act, and when he was granted bail, the Honorable High Court has said he is not a Tom, Dick and Harry to run away somewhere. He will come to the court. But in the meantime, Honorable High Court of Bombay in Kejriwal case said law is equal to all. So we have to just take these courts and wait for the justice. That's all I would say.
So as we say, law has its own course of time to
Course.
deliver justice.
Let it take its own.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much for giving us this information. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.